how life can throw you curveballs when you least expect it. One minute, you're sipping your morning coffee, scrolling through social media, and the next, you stumble upon a story that knocks the wind out of you. I was doing just that the other day when I came across a news article from years ago about a woman named Sarah. Her story is one that's haunted me ever since I read it, and I think it's worth sharing. Not just because it's a reminder of the harsh realities some people face, but also because it highlights the importance of community, awareness, and, dare I say, a little bit of humor in the darkest times. Sarah was a vibrant woman, full of life and laughter. She had this infectious smile that could light up a room. Everyone who knew her would say she was the kind of person who could make you feel like the most important person in the world, even if you were just a stranger passing by. But behind that radiant smile was a life filled with shadows. She was married to a man who, on the surface, seemed charming and charismatic. They had a beautiful home, a couple of kids, and from the outside looking in, they were the picture-perfect family. But we all know that appearances can be deceiving, right? As Sarah's friends began to notice changes in her behavior, they tried to reach out. You know how it is. You see your friend pulling away, and you want to help. But sometimes it's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. She would brush off their concerns, saying things like, "Oh, you know how it is, life gets busy," or "We're just going through a rough patch." But deep down, her friends knew something was off. They could see the bruises, the way she flinched at sudden movements, the way her laughter didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. It's heartbreaking, isn't it? To see someone you care about trapped in a situation that seems impossible to escape. And that's the thing about domestic abuse. It's not always about the physical violence. It's the emotional manipulation, the isolation, the way it chips away at your sense of self-worth until you feel like a shell of the person you once were. Sarah was living that nightmare, and her friends were powerless to help her. One night, after a particularly heated argument, Sarah's husband crossed a line that should never be crossed. In a fit of rage, he took her life. Just like that, a vibrant soul was extinguished, leaving behind a wake of devastation that rippled through her family and friends. It's a story that's all too common, and yet it feels like a punch to the gut every time I hear it. In the aftermath, the community rallied around Sarah's family. They held vigils, shared stories, and raised awareness about domestic abuse. It was a beautiful, albeit tragic, display of love and support. But it also made me think about how often we overlook the signs. How many times have we brushed off a friend's struggles because we didn't want to pry? How many times have we turned a blind eye to the bruises that don't show? I remember one of Sarah's friends, Lisa, sharing her own story of being in an abusive relationship. She said something that stuck with me. I thought I was alone, but I wasn't. I just didn't know how to ask for help. And isn't that the crux of it? We're all so afraid of being judged, of being seen as weak or needy, that we suffer in silence. But here's the thing. We need to talk about it. We need to create spaces where people feel safe to share their stories, where they can find support without fear of judgment. That's why I started the Coffee Klatsch Network. It's a place where we can come together, share our experiences, and lift each other up. Because let's face it, life can be tough, and sometimes you just need a cup of coffee and a friend to remind you that you're not alone. Now, I'm not saying we should all sit around and wallow in our sorrows. No, no, no. We need to find the humor in the darkness, to laugh at the absurdity of life. I mean, have you ever tried to explain to someone who hasn't experienced abuse what it's like? It's like trying to describe a color to someone who's been blind their whole life. You can talk about it until you're blue in the face, but unless they've lived it, they just won't get it. But that's where the community comes in. We can share our stories, our laughter, and our tears. We can create a safe space where people feel comfortable opening up, where they can find solace in knowing that they're not alone. And if we can sprinkle a little humor in there, well, that's just the icing on the cake, isn't it? So, as we remember Sarah and the countless others who have suffered in silence, let's commit to being the friends who reach out, the family members who check in, and the community that stands together. Let's break the cycle of abuse and create a world where everyone feels safe and supported. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together, and together we can make a difference. I have worked hard trying to grow this channel to help those that still suffer, for those that need a place to vent, or are just lonely or feel they are totally alone. I have mentioned in other videos that I am also a survivor and experienced all of its horrors. Domestic violence, also known as spousal abuse, knows no bounds. As a survivor and a retired social worker, this is a perfect place to connect. When I first started posting, I was drawn by the Micah Miller and Justice for Micah story. So there I started. I have let what little I know of the internet not to stop my ambition of making and growing this venue. But I have been scared and hid behind pictures that were not of me. As of today, I'm posting the real me, a photo that my 8-year-old granddaughter took and chose. But I can't do this alone. I need your help to make this a success. Please subscribe, pass this on, thumbs up, and you know what to do. I ask myself daily, am I doing this correctly? Or am I just wasting my time? I need your help. So grab your coffee, pull up a chair, and let's chat. Because you never know. Your story might just be the one that inspires someone else to find their voice. And who knows, maybe we'll even share a laugh or two along the way. After all, laughter is the best medicine, and we could all use a little more of that in our lives.